Laura Talavera will be presenting for Trailside.
Good evening. I'm the treasurer over at Trailside, and if you want me to explain any detail, I'd be happy to do so, but you have the budget in front of you, so just a couple of quick comments that I wanted to make. Our budget for the year was $7,948.23, and we started last year as a semi-independent group, but with all the transition stuff that was going on, we ended up carrying over a pretty large chunk of our budget. So we were given $5,000 from the executive board, but then we still had $1,300 some dollars that we carried over. So that's why our budget was over the $5,000 that everybody initially got. The items that we have listed here were discussed by the PTO group and then presented to our team or to our general board members at our first meeting. And as well to Mr. Wargle, and was approved as our budget for the year. But as things go throughout the year, there's always going to be things that come up. Money is going to need to be shifted here or there. One of the biggest things we have that I wanted to point out was the line that's listed technology equipment and or project or program for $875. And this is something we went to Mr. Wargle and said, you know, what's one of the biggest needs at school? And he came back to us with the 5th and 6th grade children are getting too big for the tables, and we'd like to, or for the desks, we'd like to get tables. So we were presented with something from Mr. Singer that showed what the cost was going to be to purchase that, and so that's kind of our goal for this year, is to work towards raising enough money to put towards the purchase of that large item. Other things that are relatively new for us are like the movie license. We did not do that last year, so there's different things we did put in the budget. And another big one where we're not really sure if we're going to be spending the $4,000 under collection incentives. This was just something, as Debbie mentioned, she did a box tops program. In the past, we really haven't rewarded our parents for giving us things. We did maybe small things like the Uncle Harry's coupon for box tops, but we were more relying on parents just as good nature to cut out box tops and give it to us. And we've been pretty successful with that program, but we thought, well, if other schools are successful with doing incentives, maybe we'll follow suit. So that's one thing we're kind of looking into. And then the other big line item you can see on our budget is for the school carnival at the end of the year, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. The other big thing that we did this year was spirit wear, which we're not really intending to make a profit on that, maybe just a couple bucks per item. But we did use some of our money initially to buy some inventory so that we can sell those items at bake sales and other things throughout the year. But our intention there is to not really spend any money out of pocket, just rather get back in. We'll turn around and have some inventory on hand for people to buy, so it's just more convenient. Any questions? Thank you.
Please, the last one.
And for Woodfield, Jamie Kranick will be presenting.
I am Jamie Kranick. I'm the principal. I'm the president of the Woodfield PTO. I know you have the budget in front of you, and there were just a couple of things that I wanted to include that weren't initially listed on here. This was our proposed budget, and we did do this prior to the start of the school year. Under teacher building requests, it says $3,300. We've already spent the $137.34 with a teacher request for an individual project that was done in the classroom. And we've also already spent an additional $1,400. We had an assembly on Walk to School Day, and he was a wonderful speaker. I believe it was an hour long, and came in. It was an incredible day, an incredible speaker, and I think it was a really good way to end that very nice day for both students and teachers. Everything else is pretty well outlined. I don't know if there are any specific questions related to our budget. I'm not the treasurer. I'm here on behalf of our treasurer, Beth Schilt. She does a really good job of putting together the budget, not only for our school, but also for the Waterford PTO and Fox River Middle School. The one thing that I would have to say is, we're new to this, and so I believe as the years go on, we'll be able to fine tune our budgets and be a little bit more specific with how we're allocating our funds. But right now, this is really our first year working independently as PTOs, and we're going to need to see, kind of where everything falls and where the specific needs are. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that there are expenditures, and what I don't see is the money's coming in. How did you come up with these different budgets?
I believe the dollar amount for the totals and confirmed was what was carried over from last year, and then dispersing some monies that were in the executive board funds equally to the different schools. So they had a starting dollar amount. The PTOs operate a year behind, if you will. Whatever money you earn this year goes into your budget for next year. So we're not anticipating revenues and counting on revenues for this year to fund projects for this year. And so the funds were coming from primarily the Walk to School, I think, was the biggest fundraiser typically that we have, and then other smaller events or smaller activities. I don't know if that's answering your question.
That's fine. Movie license renewal? Can you explain that?
And correct me if I'm wrong again, the movie license last year was more of a district-wide and really didn't get used I think very much at all. So it was left up to each individual school if they were planning on planning movie nights as an activity for the kids or families. It was left up to each school if they wanted to purchase the movie license. Because it is a restrictive license, if I'm remembering the discussion from the board meeting, it has to be done at one site. So it was a little bit complicated to have a district-wide license.
Correct. No, it's a specific license, and it's to show licensed movies in this building. The executive board purchased it last year for this building, and we used it 3 times last year, and anybody in this building can use it, whether it's scouts, after-school care, gym, if it's a rainy day and the kids are stuck inside, anybody can use it. But they were under the impression like Woodfield could come over here and use the license, but that's in fact not true. No, it's not true. That's not true. If you read the wording, because you can get a discount for district licensing.
It was just purchased as kind of a school license last year, it was one
Right.
side license. So,
When
I
they
mean,
purchased it, they were under the impression that the whole district could use it, and that's how they advertised it.
So this year was left up to each school if they wanted to run a movie night and purchase a license.
Okay. Dan, you have a question?
Yeah, I got a couple. More or less from the standpoint of the monetary side of it, I think we discussed this last year. I kind of see some aspects in all of these that I like. I really like the spreadsheet form that worked out pretty nice. So thanks for putting that one together. But I think that it comes back to what Paul's saying too. It'd be nice to see, for example, starting budget or starting account value at the beginning of the year, anticipated income, whatever the budget amount you're thinking for those, anticipated outlays. I see all the outlays here; those are good. I don't really have any particular question of the outlays. If the PTO in that building wants to spend it, that's fine. What I'm more interested in is knowing that how much their account balance was, how much is anticipated coming in, how much is going out, what's the anticipated account balance at the end. I don't think that I want to see a PTO go to 0 at the end of every year. I mean, we really never had one that way in previous, so saying whatever you have this year you should spend next year, I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea. But I would like to see some carryover so you have some normality, so one year you're not spending $3,000, next year $10,000. I would think you'd want to smooth that out over a period of time.
I think obviously, I think you'll notice in certain budgets, like it might be a long-term project. I think what we're hoping that the process evolves into that the PTOs are more responsive to individual principals' needs and working with them, whether it's short-term or long-term, and then building in those kinds of factors. But I certainly appreciate you wanting to see a beginning balance, if you will.
Yeah, beginning.
Like a reserve fund balance.
Exactly. That's what we're looking for as accounting practices. mainly because of previous history. We want to make sure we keep an eye on what the actual dollar amounts are.
Yes.
But a couple of things I did have a question. And this may be an easy answer, maybe not because Beth's not here, but the PTO operation at Woodfield is listed at $500, whereas the other schools are about 100 or less. Did something else get locked in there or something, or any idea, or would that be a question about that answer?
For the Fox River budget?
No, I'm looking at Woodfield.
I'm sorry, Whitfield.
Like the operating budget of all the other PTOs are about $100 or less, and the Woodfield's about $500. I didn't know if there was something in there that may have been,
Tim?
yeah,
Well, just, if you look over to the right-hand column there, you'll see the 9810
Yeah.
and the 196.99. That was money already spent, so we've already spent $300 alone on PTO operation. That was for the startup of our new checking account.
oh, gotcha.
We had to
Okay.
order the.
So that's the difference.
Yeah, we had to order the duplicate checks, and then any other supplies that we need, we've already used some money for envelopes for sending home information about walk to school day with the students. Everyone had those initial startup fees.
Yeah, yours probably showed up this year as theirs were last year, maybe.
I think the
Yes, everyone.
timing of it, Beth, and for
Yeah.
recording it, it might have gone under kind of general PTO expenses last year, and then I think as things evolved, they got
Right, because
identified differently.
for Trailside, this budget was done before we knew what the amount of those checks and that were gonna be. So you'll see that when we have, like in the spreadsheet form, that's the Trailside one, the budget versus the actual. When we actually put those numbers in, you'll see we'll be way over budget in that area because we
Yeah.
didn't know what those costs were going to be.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just kind of curious.